KEF Muon må jo være en av de mest strøkende høyttalerne som finnes i verden. Men de så ikke alltid sånn ut som dette. Det er en av de tingene vi skal avsløre etter hvert. Men først skal vi se litt på historikken til KEF. Det startet i 1961. Dette var basselementet til den aller første høyttaleren til KEF. Ja, det er jo spesielt selv i dag, og det er en spesiell historie bak KEF og hvordan det ble laget.
So the company was started in 1961 by an engineer called Raymond Cook, who was an ex-BBC engineer, and he also worked for various other British hi-fi brands, including Wharfedale. And at the time, speaker technology was fairly primitive, so people would release effectively bits of furniture, and they just sort of happened to have like a paper cone inside, and they didn't sound particularly good, but they looked quite nice. But what Raymond wanted to do is he really wanted to convey the emotional side of music, and he just found that he couldn't do that with the speakers that were around at the time. So he decided to start his own company.
This element is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, so this is the first speaker that KEF made. This is the K1, and it has quite a lot of unique and interesting features about it. So I think you highlighted there the woofer there. That is a sandwich construction of polystyrene and aluminium, so that it had stiffness while still being very, very light. Another kind of really important innovation is this. This is a ferrite motor. So up until this point, most magnets used in speakers were nickel-based. And while nickel is fairly cheap, it's not the best material to be used for a magnet. You can make a much more powerful magnet using an iron-based magnet.
But the next speaker is almost like a lifestyle speaker, very slim.
Yeah, so the K1 monitor was more of a technological test bed. And then once that technology had been refined and improved, it was then used and rolled out across a range of speakers that were much more suited to put in the home. So the K1 Slimline uses the same drivers, but in a much, much thinner cabinet.
You see that also on these kind of speakers?
Yeah, so these other speakers, as we kind of go through the 60s, all have that kind of quite traditional flat wooden box with drivers in, but very much suited to the British market, where small rooms and brick walls sort of aided the bass performance.
Det er vel få høyttalere som er mer revolusjonerende enn KEF 105.1 og 105.2. Her hadde man altså egne bokser til de forskjellige elementene. Diskantelementet her, mellomtonen der og bassene der. Ja, hørtes kanskje ikke så revolusjonerende ut nå, men den gang var det ingen som hadde gjort det før.
Importantly, the shape of those cabinets has been optimized for the driver that's in them. So you'll notice there's a round over on the side of these cabinets, and this is to reduce diffraction. So it's a really key source of distortion in loudspeakers is diffraction. So that's when a sound reaches the edge of a speaker and re-radiates, creating distortions and unevenness in the frequency response. It can often be divisive from a visual point of view, but we're all about the sound here and making sure that it really does sound as good as it can be.
Disse 104-høyttalerne husker jeg fra min ungdom. Det var en kompis av meg som hadde det, og det var bare helt fantastisk når han spilte Yellow, og det bare for det var masse bassdriv. Det var fordi at disse høyttalerne hadde noe helt spesielt. De hadde noe som het Cube.
Ah, yes, the KEF Universal Bass Equalizer. Yeah, so that's an external box. Effectively, it just had a little EQ circuit in it that you could control quite carefully using the controls on the front, and it would just give you a little bit extra on the low end.
It gets very popular in the States because of this cube.
Yeah, they have much bigger rooms over there, and having extra bass really does give it a bit of a bit of power.
Denne høyttaleren kalles KEF 109, men er kjent som The Maidstone, altså det er der hvor fabrikken ligger. Denne her var rådyr når den kom, skapte litt grann bølger, for at ingen hadde sett så dyre høyttalere før.
It's a four-way speaker with an additional a super tweeter, so you could go beyond 20k, making it into a five-way system. And this was probably the biggest speaker we'd made at the time. It went the lowest and it went the loudest, so it was a real beast of a system.
And it was a little bit discussed because at that time it was not that much speakers costing that much money.
No, it was really kind of put out there as a little bit of a demonstration of what KEF could really do. But as you'll see, not long after that, another speaker was released, which is just a little bit bigger. And that's what's behind me here, lurking ominously. This is what we call Project Austin. And Project Austin was the precursor to Muon. So this is the original prototype that we made, and we had the acoustic brief of effectively trying to make the best loudspeaker possible. Money no object, size no object, material no object. What's the best sound you could make? This was in 2002 that we took this to the Munich high-end show, and we showed people, and they were amazed. They thought this really is an amazing speaker for how it sounds. Looks-wise, maybe left a little bit to be desired, but that's always the way with prototypes. You're already looking at it.
It's a little bit different in the version that was released on the market.
Absolutely. So it was a good while. It was 5 years that we took between coming out with this, the acoustic version, the acoustic prototype, to the final release version of what would become Muon. So we handed over our design to internationally renowned industrial designer Ross Lovegrove, and gave him this speaker and gave him a brief to just do what he wanted, really. And then after sort of a bit of back and forth and making sure the acoustics still worked within the form that he wanted, this was released, and this is possibly one of the most impressive speakers that we've come up with. This is Muon. I think it really did send kind of shockwaves through the speaker industry, because just 10 years ago you said that the Maidstone really set the bar for an expensive speaker. This, when it came out, was I think about £140,000. I don't know whether many speakers really were that expensive at the time, but it's more an expression of the state of the art rather than a commercially viable product. It's just something that we can say this is what we think the best speaker in the world is.
Du ser det kanskje ikke så tydelig her, men det er jo en liten formfaktor, noe som går bakover. Minner det om et eller annet, eller? Bowers & Wilkins 800-serien kanskje? Who is the copycat?
Well, there's definitely been some back and forth within the speaker industry between certainly us and various other companies. A lot of people do look at KEF speakers and pick up on certain styling cues.
And you won't say the name?
No, I can't possibly say. But there have been companies that have taken a little bit of a legal interest in what we've designed, but we have so much history, really, that we can prove that we did it first.
KEF revolusjonerte med Muon, men de gjorde kanskje like mye med Blade-høyttalerne. Her prototypen laget i karbonfiber. Hadde de brukt dette materialet, så tror jeg faktisk høyttalerne hadde blitt dobbelt så dyre som de i dag. Veldig spesiell konstruksjon som vi får høre litt mer om her.
In 2009, we went to Munich high-end and we brought with us a secret pair of speakers. We brought with us these. This is the concept blade. Someone said, we've got a great thing going with UniQ. It's point source, all the sound comes from the same place, but it's got no bass. Okay, well you can add more bass drivers to give you that extra bass, but when you do, you lose the point source effect. So we decided that we could try to wrap the bass drivers around the side of the cabinet to give them, to make sure that they're as close to the UniQ as possible. We took this speaker to Munich, we showed people, and the response was overwhelming. The response was, when can we buy one? And we went, oh, we can't sell this, it's just a prototype. It's not production ready, but we can make it production ready. And that's what we did. And the production version of the blade is slightly different materials used.
Because this is a very, very expensive material used in the concept version.
Yes, so this, I think we made this out of a carbon fiber skin. We could have productionized it, and it would have been expensive.
And it would cost twice the price if you use that material, I think.
Maybe more, yeah. Carbon fiber's not cheap.
Husk å trykke like og abonner på vår kanal, sånn at vi kan fortsette å lage videoer som dette.